It's time for Political Buzz, the television forum to discuss politics and issues of interest for all of Western New York. Now, from the WBBZ television studio at the Eastern Hills Mall, this is Political Buzz.
Hello, everybody. John DeShula with you here on Political Buzz. Good to have you back with us on your hometown television station. Want to bring in Phil Arno, the executive producer of Political Buzz and the owner of WBBZ-TV. And it's time to catch up with Carl Palladino. We haven't seen Carl in a while. So much to catch up on, and we welcome you back, Carl Palladino, to our show. As we are beginning to record our program today in our Eastern Hills Mall studio, Rob Astorino, Westchester County executive, decided to throw his hat in the ring for something that Carl once did, and that is run for governor in the state of New York on the Republican ticket. Take a look at what he posted on his website just hours ago.
I'm Westchester County Executive Rob Astorino, and I'm announcing my candidacy today for governor of New York State because I'm tired of listening to the fairy tale that everything is just great when it's just the opposite. I'm tired of watching New York's decline. Living in New York shouldn't sound like a prison sentence, but that's too often what you hear today. 3 more years and I'm out of here. Once the kids finish high school, we're headed south. I don't know when that started, but it has to stop. I have a simple question for New Yorkers. As a state, are we winning or are we losing today? Because if New York is winning, re-elect Andrew Cuomo. But if New York is losing, and the evidence says it is, we need to make a change.
Phil, I'll let you begin because you think Mr. Astorino's point, his talking points are right on, and we'll begin the discussion there.
Well, Carl, he was smooth. He said all the right things. I guess the very first question at this stage, as we're taping this program, what's this going to do for a potential Donald Trump run?
I don't think it's going to do anything. I think and by the way, I talk frequently with Mr. Trump, and I have great respect for what he's doing. He has taken a position that the old way of doing things hasn't worked, and why do we keep doing it? Everybody in the press and the Rhino Party leaders want to suggest that, oh, come on, Don, you have to declare or get out of the way. Well, who made that rule up? The convention isn't until May. Donald Trump is a tough guy. He's tough, but he's also very, very sincere. When I sat with him and we talked about why he's running, it was more about family. It was about legacy. It's about honoring his dad. It was about a mission to help the masses. I mean, he's made all kinds of money. He doesn't need money, obviously, and he's been creative. He's explored that creativity. When I talk to him about issues, he's right on the issues. He has a very sincere, look you right in the eye attitude about the way Albany's dysfunction has caused the loss of as Rob points out in his an announcement, that's caused the loss of hundreds of thousands of people from good people, wage earners from the state of New York. They just can't afford the burdens of this liberal bubble. The liberal bubble wants to say, we're going to invite all the masses from across the country into New York State. We're going to give you a college education, and we're going to educate the prisoners in jail for, we're going to reward them instead of punish them now. A lot of it is absolutely senseless liberal politics. And
a great welcome to New York State phrase: commit a crime, and we'll give you a college education.
How the guy can even think about suggesting that, especially in an election year, shows you the arrogance and the vanity of one man, and why he could deny us fracking for the past 3 years, okay? Deny upstate, millions of people, deny them an opportunity for an economy, deny them an opportunity to have to accumulate some wealth and to earn a decent living.
You're well versed in the behind-the-scenes reasoning for political decisions. What's in it for him to say, let's educate prisoners? If you want to...
Andrew Cuomo is seeking to be to the left of Obama and Hillary. He wants to be to the left. He wants to promise ice cream, cell phones. Okay. He wants to do what Obama did. and he wants to be over further than Obama. That's his philosophy. He's never been a middle-of-the-road type guy. His entire reign of terror for the past 3 years has been about satisfying an illusion that he puts out, and continuing this fantasy world that he and Sheldon Silver concoct that says, oh, we're going to have pension reform. Well, pension reform turned out to be no reform. Oh, we're going to do the right thing for the kids of the state. Well, we're still waiting, Andrew. When are you going to give vouchers to the kids in non-performing schools? When are you going to give them that freedom to leave the cycle of poverty? Obviously, he's not really interested in getting rid of the cycle of poverty, because keeping them captive in our urban centers only is to his benefit, because they'll vote for him, because all these phony minority leaders out there are saying, oh, you have to continue to pull the Democratic lever. It doesn't. That is the reason that I have such great difficulty with Rob Astorino. I like Rob Astorino as a man. I think he's right on issues. He knows the right place on the issues. But he doesn't have that killer instinct that a guy like Trump has. Trump has a gut, and that gut and killer instinct is what we need as a true leader. The people are waiting to be led. The people all over the state are waiting to be led, and that liberal bubble is coming to an end because Obama, he blew it. Okay, he turned Obamacare into a nightmare. He left our troops on the battlefield at Benghazi. I mean, you don't do things like that. This man has illustrated to people who wanted to give the liberals a chance. He's illustrated very clearly that you can't do that, okay, because they don't know what the hell they're doing. Back to Rob Astorino.
Carl, you mentioned a few weeks ago on this show, if you didn't like the candidate selected by the Republican Party, that you might throw your hat in the ring on the conservative line. Based on what you've seen and this wild card of whether Trump is in or out, will you consider that, or do you think Rob Astorino is going to be the laser beam that's going to focus the Republican Party, and you're going to support him and not step in? If
Donald Trump decides not to run for some reason, but right now I feel very strongly he's going to run, but if he should decide not to, the only way I can support a Rob Astorino would be if he denounces the rhinos. He and Cox have come out and said that they want to have party unity. Well, you can't unify rhinos who are just in wolf's clothing. Okay, these guys are traitors. They're traitors to the basic principles of the Republican and conservative parties and the Republican conservative rank and file. You can't unify us with them. We're not interested in that unification.
Well, their argument obviously would be, in a state like New York, you have to move towards the center and be less conservative. I'm
not saying that we have to yield to all these conservative principles, okay? I'm talking about moderate Republicans. There's a big difference between a moderate Republican and somebody that climbed in bed with Andrew Cuomo on the SAFE Act.
Right.
What is Dean Skelos? I mean, fine. Dean Skelos chose to vote for the SAFE Act, and he brought 8 senators from Long Island with him. And that's all well and good, but why did our Republican senators then allow him to continue as their leader? Why? They should have gotten rid of him immediately, okay? Right. Because he violated basic rules of the Republican conservative philosophy. So Rob Astorino would have to denounce them.
You think that's possible? Do you think...
I don't think so. I mean, I just heard that YNN announced that Dean Skelos is the biggest supporter of Astorino. Well, of course he is. All right. He wants to lead Astorino into this sacrificial lamb run for governor, so that everything stays the same. He's already committed himself. Dean Skelos has to Andrew Cuomo, and so have all the other rhinos. Mondello committed to him. Guys like Vinny Rada and Ed Cox. I think Ed Cox is playing games. He wants the status quo. The last few runs that he's supervised, including my own, he led the betrayal of the candidate and allowed the rhinos, to betray, and it took no action against them. They lay down. And they're going to lay down on Rob Astorino,
I was going to ask about Ed Cox, because he has been rather polarized. He does not get along, obviously, with Donald Trump. We have about 30 seconds left here, gentlemen.
I think Ed wrote his own death notice. Okay, he came out with this Astorino thing right from the outset, and did not have an open process to lead to the selection of governor. I don't see any problem with Rob coming out right now. I don't think he's going to raise the money that he thinks he can raise, and I do think that Trump is going to run.
One more quick question, Phil, before we take a break.
Well, it's going to be the convention is in May. Between now and then, is he going to have a foothold and raise the money if Trump is not there? If
Trump isn't there, he'll raise some money, but he's not going to win enough to raise enough to get the name recognition. It's going to cost $10 to $15 million just to get name recognition throughout the state. He only has 25% name recognition right now. Where's he going?
From the race for the governor to what's happening in the Buffalo School Board, we'll catch up with Carl Palladino. More as Political Buzz continues right after this. Welcome back to Political Buzz. Let's get an update now on the Buffalo School Board. Carl Palladino representing the Park District in the school board. And Carl, there's been a lot that's been happening in the last couple of weeks or so. Controversy surrounding Mary Gwynn, the deputy superintendent, who's now been appointed, $175,000 salary, I believe. My guess is that you don't agree with that appointment. And, of course, Dr. Pamela Brown has been becoming maybe more and more now public. She's doing many more media appearances, speaking out. And Larry Quinn, who was, people remember from the Buffalo Sabres, and before that with Mayor Griffin's administration, Larry Quinn has thrown his hat into the race. And Mayor Brown saying maybe he should get involved more with the Buffalo School District. A lot of drama. It's like a reality show with the players, the politics. Bring us up to speed on where all of this is.
It's like a soap opera. If you have clueless members of the majority of the Board of Education reacting in the only way they know how, and that's with abuse of their power, and appointing to the deputy superintendent's job a person who they describe as the only person that can be deputy superintendent.
For now, until they find another candidate.
The reason for a 90-day appointment in their vernacular is that Mary Gwynn started the reorganization plan, and she needs to complete the implementation of the reorganization plan. As far as we can see, the reorganization plan is a complete failure because the people chosen to implement the reorganization are basically incompetent, and they don't command a respect. We have chiefs of school leadership who are in charge of the principals who don't command respect from the principals because they couldn't and they were failures themselves when they were principals. All right, they were driven out of their principals' jobs by their failures, and then elevated to a position of supervision. You can't do that. So you can't. It's such a disrespect for the merit system. Okay,
and there's so many statistics
in a city where we haven't had a Republican mayor since 1954. Well, in the last 60 years, there's been one Republican. How do you fight the entrenchment in the school board that just keeps on repeating itself over and over and over again?
Well, I think by the use of transparency and a big spotlight that I've put onto the voters of the city of Buffalo the burden of finally addressing something which has been for decades not addressed. Everybody in the business community and the leaders in the community all went like this. They don't want any part of it. They figured that's total dysfunction. We don't want any part of it. Well, this disease has gotten so bad that you have to pay attention now. Okay, whether you're from Buffalo or any of our Western New York area, this is a critical problem because it affects everybody's lives. Its dysfunction is the prime reason for all the ills and malaise of our city.
And Phil pointed out that maybe even to the departure of population, going way back even to busing in the 50s.
You've lost the working class from the city. They're not going to send their kids.
Right.
Okay, so they've moved out. What's that do? It depresses property values. Okay, that causes all the headaches that go along with it. Blight, crime on the streets, okay, all these dropouts. I mean, when you only have a 46% graduation rate, where the 54% go? Where do they go? They hit the streets. Well, they're uneducated. They can't get a job, so they resort to crime, and we go through all these processes, and people have all that fear of the streets of the city of Buffalo, and they don't want their kids coming there and whatever.
Well, Phil picked up some statistics on graduation rates. Andy, if you could put those up, we may as well describe them. Phil, what did you find?
Well, this is incredible. I mean, the high school graduation rates, and these are from a few years ago, the latest I could find, 29% for Grover Cleveland. Bennett High School, 46%. My brother went to Bennett. I mean, this has gone downhill. I'd love to see a chart that gives the last 40 years.
Well, and the charter
success.
schools are a little bit better. If we can look at that statistic on the screen, you see that 100%.
100%.
Yeah.
For applied technology, 100%.
And the majority of the board condemns charter schools every chance they get. They
Because
won't
they don't
even address
control
them. And actually, here they were a couple of weeks ago, only giving 2-year extensions to the Westminster and Enterprise schools because they are anti-charter.
And
that single thing says the most about the school board. They're not concerned about the success of the children.
No.
They have another agenda.
Concerned about their own empowerment. This is the problem with the cycle of poverty that we were discussing earlier. This is where the cycle of poverty, the answers for that are the leadership, the African American leadership in our community for years and years and years has done everything they can to empower themselves by keeping the masses in the urban cycle of poverty. They don't want them to leave. They don't want an exit strategy, okay? They don't support, I mean, if you were supportive of vouchers, okay, that's really the ultimate answer. Why don't they support the voucher? Why are they so anti-voucher, anti-school competition? All right, they don't want competition because they're afraid that the competition is going to take all the kids. They don't want an expansion of charters. All right, it's absolutely upside down. What do the parents want? The parents of the 32,000 kids in this system. They want their children educated. They want the best education.
They have lotteries to get into the charter schools.
No, they recognize there's highly at-risk homes. There's dysfunction in the homes, all right? You can't change that. You can't just keep pointing your finger at the home and saying, that's the solution. What's the rest of the country doing about this? They're creating Sikh schools, okay? Boarding schools. They take the kids out of the high at-risk homes. They put them into a boarding environment. They nurture them. They dress them. They build up their self-esteem. They teach them to respect education. And it works. Why don't we do it? Because this majority on the board is opposed to anything that might assert their power.
As is often the phrase, follow the money.
Follow the money.
And money is power. And unions and look how much we spend per child on education.
Yeah, we have a statistic on that. In fact, Carl, Phil pointed out here, and what he found, $9,266 is the statistic on the national average of what the spending is per student. If we have that on the screen, but in Buffalo, that's a much higher number.
Our overall budget, all three budgets put together, is $965 million. You take off $100 million that goes to the charter schools at the rate of $12,000 per student, and the balance you divide by 32,000 kids, and you're going to get roughly $28,000 a year that is spent by our system to educate a child.
Which is close to
now,
3 times
where does that money go?
Average.
Just take one line item, okay? Take the line item for 4,133 retired teachers. Our cost is $17,000 per teacher, $66.6 million. Instead of moving the teachers onto Medicare and paying for the supplement for Medicare, our system, okay, has agreed in the past, and we're stuck with these union contracts that require us to pay for the full amount of the insurance. Nobody else does that, but we do it here. Okay?
Are we stuck with that, or? And can we only change it going forward, or is there anything we can change on the existing?
You can't change it going in the past, but I'll tell you, I've gained a little bit of respect for Obamacare because Obamacare trumps contracts, and we can We can get out of that by putting all these retirees into Obamacare and paying the $2,000 a year penalty. We'll save $60 million, okay? It's, and that will help cover, okay, and that money can go right into educating the kids. You know, the other burden is the pension plans, which are absolutely ridiculous, okay? That's a defined benefit rather than a defined contribution plan. By the Constitution of the state of New York, we can't invade what's been given, okay? So those that are in this pension plan will stay in that pension plan. Phil Rumor, you know, you think about Phil Rumor, they should probably give him a medal because he has beat up every administration he's had to deal with over 25 years, and he has successfully given the teachers totally unreasonable benefits and management prerogatives that they shouldn't have.
It's a strong union, that's for sure, and they get support from across the state. Go ahead, Phil, then I want to show one other statistic.
With the division of the school board the way it is, how many seats are up for election?
There's 3 at-large seats up for election on May 6th. And I say to the people of the city of Buffalo, there's never been a more important vote. The candidates we're putting up are Larry Quinn and Patty Bowers, Patty Pierce Bowers, who is from South Buffalo. She's a DA investigator, a very, very bright lady. Most importantly, she recognizes that the problem is leadership, and so does Larry. And they will help us clean up the leadership immediately.
In all fairness,
July 1, if they're elected, we'll have sufficient votes to get rid of this leadership, both on the board and in the superintendent's job.
We should also mention Sergio Rodriguez is running as well.
Sergio
former mayoral candidate, and Bernie Talbert as well.
They are in favor of the status quo. Okay, both of them have basically said that they do not seek the removal of the present leadership. So they haven't defined their solution. They want more rhetoric and more talk, and they want to advance their own political careers rather than doing the right things for the kids of the city.
As a public service, we would welcome candidates on both sides to come in here, sit down, and discuss the issues.
Explain themselves.
That's the way that you get to know your candidates.
You see, when you take a guy like Bernie Talbert, who I sat with at great length, and I told him, I said, if you can't tell me right now, given everything that you know about this school system, that a leadership change is the most important thing that we could do, if you can't say that. And he says, no, I can't. And the reason that he can't is because he is seeking further political office, and he's got this thing in his head that he's going to alienate the African American community.
Do you think that by Mayor Brown stepping up, saying in his State of the City that he wants to get more involved, that he is inserting himself because maybe he's at odds with Larry Quinn or some of the other candidates?
I don't see Mayor Brown taking over the city school system. There's no advantage to it. It doesn't answer the questions. What would be a better legislation would be to have the state commissioner of education, John King, empowered to take out a bad school board, to take out a bad superintendent. In other words, empower him, all right, because he's the guy most familiar with how all this stuff goes. It would just become a political football in the hands of Byron Brown.
He's been very aggressive to criticize the performance levels, and Phil brought up a statistic on test scores that I wanted to show you for a grade 5. Just taking a look here at the Buffalo average versus the state average for test scores, and I'll read it here, Phil. For math and English, 26% in Buffalo versus 53% for the state, and math 31% in Buffalo versus 66% for the state. So no wonder John King is coming in, and no wonder you've stepped up, Carl, to say things.
All the
that
other
need to be said.
grades are very similar. We chose the grade 5 as an example, but those are the numbers of kids that reach proficiency. Only 26%, versus 53%. Yeah. The state isn't doing that great. But the city, Western New York, Buffalo,
the superintendent has claimed success in suspension rates. Well, Of course, they've lowered the amount of suspensions because they inform the principals do not suspend kids. All right, a success in attendance. Well, the reason attendance numbers shot right up is because they don't take attendance. All right. Well, if you're not taking attendance, you don't have any. Obviously, there's nobody not coming to school, and then she claims that they've increased the graduation rate from 46 to 54%. Well, the state is coming in to investigate that because nobody believes it. It's total concoction.
Like Mark Twain said, you have lies.
Weak people tend to think that they can recreate history.
What's the line, Phil, before we go to break?
Lies, damn lies, and statistics.
There we are.
Yeah.
Political Buzz with Carl Palladino. We'll be back in just a minute. There it is, Political Buzz, Sunday 11 a.m., Thursday at 9 a.m., and our website, WBBZ-TV. Remember to like us on Facebook and follow the conversation at Twitter. Gentlemen, as we wrap up the fast half hour, and I thank you, Carl, for coming in. I know you're a busy guy. It's the 50th anniversary of the chicken wing this week, invented, they say, at the Anchor Bar, the Bellissimo family. So I have to ask, hot, medium, or mild? Phil?
Hot and crispy.
Carl?
Mild crispy.
Mild. I thought you would have been a hot guy yourself.
I can't have that because I love them. Yeah.
But you're hot in some other places, that's for sure. Hey, I wanted to congratulate Joe Malucci, who is a part of our WBBZ-TV team, our creative director. He's working audio for this show. He's nominated for a Buffalo Excellence in Media Award. That's coming up in April from the Buffalo Broadcasters, so congratulations to our guy, Joe. We'll see you next time right here on your hometown television station.